Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Zozo DFS Tactics show. We've got quite a bit to get into, a lot of lineups to create, how we are going to navigate around the chalk of the contests. The one field change I have seen, Aaron Wise has withdrawn. He was replaced in the field with Sam Ryder. That is the only field change I have seen, a little less than 24 hours away from tee-off. So just a reminder that the lineups are due at 7:50 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to say 7:30 p.m. Eastern just to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. I will be available all tomorrow via Discord, via social media. Any way you need to get a hold of me for your last minute questions, the links are in the description. I may even be live on Twitch tomorrow morning. I'm not sure yet, but if I am not, you are absolutely able to get a hold of me in the Discord server or via social media or even in the comments of this video. I will respond with any last minute questions that you have, especially since some ownership projections will continue to be updated leading into the postings or the deadline tomorrow. But we've got a lot to get into, so let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there. It is going to make you a much better gambler and a much smarter DFS player. Go check them out. It is simply well worth your investment. In the description of the video, there are links to all of my social media. Instagram, Discord server, Twitch. This is the way that you can get a hold of me, as I mentioned, for the last minute questions that you have. If you want to see my research that I posted yesterday regarding the winners of the previous, or the pattern of the previous winners at Accordia Golf Narashino, that is posted on Twitter. I will post my betting cards tomorrow before tee-off for the Zozo Championship. I will also probably be on live on Twitch. I don't want to say for 100% certainty, but if enough questions are out there, I will be more than happy to just jump on and do a quick Twitch stream with you all. But I would be doing my lineup preparations and whatnot on Twitch as well. But on any other day, I will be doing rookie research. I'll be doing course research. Throughout the weekend, I'll be doing showdown content. So give me a follow at Twitch if you want to see some of the other content that I create. Even, just hang out, play some games and whatnot. DFS, baseball, anything. Just kind of a mixed bag over at Twitch. So give me a follow if you're interested in that. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. If you are able to watch a show live, I want to hear from you. Who are you wanting to try to build a lineup around? Are you thinking that Hideki is a must-own? Which Japanese player, if any, are you targeting? I have a few that I'm going to recommend for sure. Are there any 6K plays that you think need to be played? So on and so forth. So jump in chat. I want to hear from you all and what you think is going to play well or not play well at the Zozo this week. So let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Zozo. And we start over at Windfinder. And it looks to be pretty hectic, to be honest with you. There is no super forecast here at the Japanese air base that this is, Shimofusa Air Base. But Thursday looks to be quite rain heavy, quite a lot of rain and wind in the forecast. Then cooling down, or I shouldn't say cooling down, it's heating up. It's a warm front, but the winds are calming down, is what I'm trying to say. Into Friday, Saturday and Sunday look very, very nice for golf. If Thursday is a wash, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, considering the amount of rain they're looking at. If it gets into Monday, then the winds are really forecast to be picking up, if they are indeed having to move this tournament or delay it much beyond Sunday and whatnot. So there is a look at the forecast for now. Again, this is a no-cut event, so there is no AM/PM splits to try to take advantage of. Instead, we're going to come over here to Fantasy National, and very quickly, since January 1st, in moderate and windy conditions, there we go. In moderate and windy conditions since January 1st, your best performers in those conditions have been Sungjae, Mito Pereira, Cameron Young, Xander, Keegan Bradley, Sebastian Munoz, Corey Connors, Brandon Wu, Hideki, and Siwoo Kim. So give those 10 players a bit of a bump this week in your rankings. And then at the other end of the spectrum, players that have not played well in the wind in this calendar year: Danny Lee, Joel Damon, Takumi Kanaya, Ricky Fowler, Taylor Moore, Hayden Buckley, Martin Laird, Stephen Yeager, Adam Shank, Russell Knox, Matt Wallace, Bo Hostler, so on and so forth. Give those players a downgrade in your rankings. But there is a look at the wind finder forecast. Lots of rain and quite a bit of wind on Thursday. Temperatures are warming up, but the wind calming down on Friday. Saturday and Sunday look to be perfect. Mid-70s, very little wind. And then if Thursday happens to be a wash and Monday comes into play, then it really, really looks like wind is in the forecast for Monday. So with that, there is everything to do with wind and wind finder. Let's move on over to the mixed condition model that I ended up with for this week. And we talked last night on the Data Dive show how there were a few ways we could go in terms of metrics and filters, but there weren't a lot because some of the data just isn't there. We don't have proximity. We don't have putting. We don't have a lot of the data that I like to use, approach, around the green, off the tee, all that kind of stuff. We just have granular level detail as par 4s, par 3s, greens, and whatnot. So, with that, I started off with 15% in strokes gained approach, and originally I had it at 10%. I did up it to 15. When in doubt, I am just going to lean into strokes gained approach. We talked about last night how greens kind of encompassed strokes gained approach and proximity. But at some point, you still do need to hit or have a successful ball striking week to contend here at Narashino. So 15% in strokes gained approach. We talked quite a bit about birdies versus bogeys, even double bogeys. I put 5% birdies gained in less or on courses less than 7,200 yards. I didn't do birdies or better because eagles are very, very rare here. They do happen, but they're very rare. Birdies were a little bit more important than bogeys we saw throughout Sunday and last night. And as much as I thought about doing double bogeys, I wanted to emphasize some other parts of the data model. So I just stuck with 5% birdies gained on short courses. Speaking to emphasizing, I talked about it when I brought up last year's mixed condition model. I really emphasized the par 3s again this year. 15% in total par 3s and 15% in par 3s 175 to 200. So 30% of the data model is wrapped up in what I think is going to be the most important length of holes here at Narashino, or at least they have been the first 2 years the event has been played here. Not to skip over it, 20% in greens gained, or greens in regulation gained when it's difficult. I talked a little bit last night, convolutedly, but talked a little bit about greens when it's short versus difficult and all that stuff. The Zozo has played difficult half of the rounds that it's been here. 4 of the 8 rounds have been difficult here at Accordia Narashino. And even though the course will guarantee to be short, it's not guaranteed to be difficult, but I have my hunch it'll be difficult. And greens are a metric that are much more defined, much more inducive or conducive to success if a tournament is hard. If a player is able to hit the green in regulation, they're going to gain a lot of an advantage on their opponents over the week, especially because 3-putts are just not very common here. In fact, I'll bring up the course breakdown. 3-putts are minute here, 26% versus 55.6% on the regular PGA Tour event. So because we don't have green data, this would tell me that, one, either the greens are very, very small, which could also be an indicator of why greens are so important since they're not hit as often here, or the greens are extremely easy to read. Either way, greens are going to be important. And when a course is difficult, it's that much more important that you hit greens in regulation. So I have 20% in greens when it's difficult. I round out the mixed condition model with 10% in all of the par 4s. I did end up separating out 5% for the 450 to 500. So, 15% kind of in these par 4s because they are the most important length, but they're not so important that I have to put a whole lot of emphasis into them like the par 3s, 175 to 200. So 10% in all par 4s, 5% in 450 to 500 par 4s, and rounded out the mixed condition model with par 5, 15% in par 5s, 550 to 600. Even though there is one on the scorecard that measures over 600, it's in the 6.0s. It will come into the 550s 2 of the days, I'm pretty sure. So, and it is the, it's the other third, it's the third par 5. You still have to score on them. The 2 easiest holes on the golf course are the 2 par 5s that measure between 550 and 600. You still have to get your birdies on them. But they are not the most important part of the golf course. I still think that is the par 3s from 175 to 200. And this par 5 will come into that length, the 550 to 600. So 15% there on that length of par 5s. With that all out of the way, let's go ahead and move on over to Microsoft Excel, and I will bring up my rankings. And of course, I did it last week. I've done it again this week. I had it sorted on the price. So sort on that. So my rankings go as such. I've got Sung Jae, number 1. Adam Shank, number 2. Tom Kim, 3rd. Xander, Emiliano Grillo, Corey Connors, Adam Long, Cam Davis, Alex Smalley, and Taylor Moore. And a little bit of this is surprising to me. I knew Adam Shank was going to be pretty high. I didn't know how high he would be. The metrics really, really like him. He hits a lot of greens when it's difficult. His iron play has been very good lately. Hey P, how you doing? Hope your week has went well. Thanks for jumping in chat. A little bit of a different schedule this week with the tournament having started by this time tomorrow night. So needed to move the DFS up a night. Shank popping, huh? He is, for me, in the metrics that I am considering. I was just talking about him. He's number 5 in this field in hitting greens when it's difficult. He's top 10 in iron play. The par 3s leave some to be desired. Again, 32nd generally isn't terrible, but when it's in a field of 80, it's not as strong. But he is 11th in the most important range of hole here at Narashino, 175 to 200, par 3s. Now, the area where he does get some strikes against him, par 4s and birdies on short courses, he's not been good. That's absolutely fair. I knew he would rise in my mixed condition model. I didn't know he would be second or third by the analytics. He's second because he has played this event and played it fairly well here at Narashino, and he is not too widely popular. So Adam Shank being second overall, probably a bit high, but I don't think it's a stretch to put him in, say, the top 8 or so. I do think this will be a good tournament for Adam Shank. Tom Kim, no explanation really needed. I mean, he's got 3 statistics that he's number 1 in this field in. Xander, again, he has played this event very, very well here at Narashino. The one person that I'm quite speculative about or very cautious about is Cam Davis. This does not feel like a Cam Davis fit for as much as he has some very good metrics. Cam Davis is best when it's easy, and this is not easy. If anything, this is going to be on the difficult end of the spectrum. You see, he's 52nd in hitting greens when it's difficult. Now his irons have been very good. Par 3s have been fantastic. He just destroys par 5s. But this is a gut feeling in the sense that I do not like Cam Davis this week on the difficult narrative. If this course or if this tournament does play difficult like it has majority of the time the first 2 years it's been played here, Cam Davis is going to struggle. Alex Smalley, anytime you factor in greens, whether it's easy, difficult, long, short, he's going to rise. He just hits a lot of greens in regulation. With no putting data, he's not going to get dropped because he's not the best putter in the world. I like Smalley. I don't know if I'd have him 9th, but I think top 15 or so is absolutely fair for him, considering the greens emphasis here this week. Taylor Moore, somebody else that I'm kind of high on, despite the greens in regulation number being poor to hideous. Tommy Fleetwood I'm very high on. And I'll have a little bit of a review for the Japanese players here in a little bit. But let's go through the price board here. There's a look at my top 10. Sort now on salary. And in the 10Ks, we have 4 players. We have Xander, Hideki, Colin Morikawa, and Sungjae. 2 players are getting... Sungjae's my number 1 player. Xander's number 4. I think Hideki's a little bit too low in my mixed condition model. He always rates out lower than usual, or than what he probably should in my mixed condition models. Like the greens haven't been great this calendar year. The par 5s haven't been fantastic this year, or at least from the John Deere forward. Now, the metric that's getting cut off here, he's 4th in birdies gained on short courses. That is very, very solid for Narashino. He is 3rd in 175 to 200 yard par 3s. Solid. So I think Hideki needs to be higher than 18th for sure, especially considering he is the defending champion, and the other time it was played here, he finished 2nd. It's a pretty strong 2-year run there for him. And then I am lowest on Morikawa. But anyway, so in the 10Ks, all things being equal, even with the high amount of ownership, I still am going to take Sungjae number 1. You can't argue with that level of elite there. Third in greens, second in the length of the par 5s, top 13 in both portions of the par 3s, top 10 in approach. I mean, even at 25%, Sungjae's probably the best play. I am going to go with Hideki number 2. One, for the price quote discount of $400 off of Xander, and for the ownership discount a little bit. So I'm going to go Sungjae 1, Hideki number 2, Xander number 3. Colin Morikawa is a pretty clear 4 for me, but he is still getting a lot of love. So if you're coming into the 10Ks, you are not unique at all. Just know that. You are not unique if you are coming into the 10Ks. Because of that, that's why I have Hideki number 2 and why I have Sungjae number 1. If you're not going to be unique coming up into the 10Ks, you might as well just play the best player, who to me, he's number 1 in the analytics ranks. He is finished 3rd the one time he's played here at Narashino. He's the cheapest of the 10Ks. It just makes a whole lot of sense for Sungjae to be number 1. We move into the 9s. You've got Tom Kim, Victor Hovland, Cameron Young, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, and Corey Connors. We talked about it all week. Victor Hovland just has kind of disappeared. He has not played very well at all lately. When it's difficult, he has had a tough time getting on the green in regulation. The iron play has not been there. Par 3s, the par 5s are really bad. So I don't know where Victor Hovland's game is. I'm willing to take a chance at losing to him this week. This doesn't feel like a Victor Hovland course. So he's one of the players that I'll lose to this week. The one player that is very unique in terms of ownership in the 9s and 10s, I'm talking about him a lot, especially at the end of the season, Tyrrell Hatton. I see nothing wrong with Tyrrell Hatton. Now, these numbers don't inspire a lot of confidence, sure. The par 3s are very important, and he has struggled with them. But he is number 1 at par 4s. He's number 1 at par 4s, 450 to 500 yards. And he generally plays his best when it's difficult. I kind of like Tyrrell Hatton this week. I will dabble in some Tyrrell Hatton. I'm going to try not to have a lot of exposure to him. But I don't see a reason why Tyrrell Hatton shouldn't be at least considered. The two of the 3 big, I would say 2 of the 3, but really it's only Tyrrell Hatton that's kind of getting ignored here in the 9Ks. So Tom Kim at 18, almost 19%, makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, I'm not going to dispute it. He's number 2 in my rankings. He's just getting hurt because of the fact that he's never played here before. Cameron Young never played here. He's not done the best with difficult courses, nor par 3 metrics, but the par 5s, really good. Par 4s, elite. He's number 1 in birdies gained on short courses, which is getting cut off here. Cameron Young's going to be fine. I really like Tommy Fleetwood. He has played at Narashino well. I really like Corey Connors. He has played at Narashino very well. Number 1 in greens when it's difficult. Number 5 in strokes gained approach. I really like Corey Connors this week. So for me in the 9Ks, I'm looking at, if I'm not going to use Tom Kim, then I'm looking at a Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Corey Connors duo, and maybe even doing a triple of these 3. But I do like the bottom of the 9Ks quite a bit this week. Oh, sorry. The bottom of the 9Ks. Cameron Young is fine. I like Fleetwood and Connors more with the ownership discount that you're getting. And I will take a shot on Tyrrell Hatton, absolutely. Going into the 8s, you've got Keegan Bradley, Siwoo, Sahith Theegala, Tom Hoge, Cam Davis, Maverick McNeely, Mito, Scott Stallings, Sebastian Munoz, Davis Riley, and Christian Bezadenhout. Well, in here, you've got a couple of players that are getting some love. Keegan Bradley, who has played Narashino twice and has averaged a 10th place finish. So very, very good course form. The par fives have been excellent. He is second in birdies or birdies gained on short courses. Now the irons for Keegan, the irons haven't been there, and that's scary because Keegan needs to have his ball striking there because Keegan can go full Keegan with the putter at any point. Siwoo coming off a fantastic Shriners, okay, middling ownership, not in love with it. Okay. I do not like Tagala this week at all. I am lukewarm on Hoagie again. I know he played extremely well last week. I mean, number 2 in strokes gained approach. He's going to hit the greens, but it's the putter. If he putts well, sure. But there's a Japanese player that fits this profile that's a lot less money, a lot less on the price board, and a lot less owned, that has the same kind of formula for going around a golf course that Tom Hoagie has. So that's why I'm off of Tom Hoagie. If I'm going to play a Tom Hoagie style player, it's going to be one of these Japanese players a little later on that we'll talk about. I mentioned it in the outset of the rankings. I'm wary of Cam Davis. This is a difficult course. He does not play difficult courses well. McNeely, I mean, that sums it up pretty good there. There's a lot to be worried about with Mav McNeely. Mito had a fantastic... I was wrong on Mito last week. I didn't think the Shriners was going to be good for him. He played spectacularly. He's at 20% owned. Probably going to have to eat a little bit of chalk, but I don't like it. Stallings, meh. Munoz is interesting because he has played Narashino and played it well. I've got a hunch on Christian Bezadenhout. This feels like it could be a Christian Bezadenhout style course. I know the greens are really bad. The irons aren't the best. Again, this is just kind of a gut feeling where I think, this Cam Davis is going to be a struggle. I think Christian Bezadenhout is going to like this course. Again, this is just kind of my gut feeling. So in the 8Ks, I'm taking a look at Keegan. He has played. You can't ignore the fact that he has played this event very well. The irons do scare you, but the par fives still good. Par threes are good enough. He gets birdies in bunches when it's short course. So I'll look at Keegan Bradley. I'll probably have to use a little bit of Mito. I don't like it, but I kind of like Christian Bezadenhout a little bit this week. But as I was going into the 9s and 8s last week at the Shriners, kind of the opposite. I'm kind of ignoring the 8s this week. So that tells you the kind of lineups I've been building. But there's a look at the 8s. Let's look at the 7s. Right off the bat, KH Lee kind of sticks out to me as well. He's played Narashino fairly well, and I can never narrow down. KH Lee's kind of like a Cameron Champ. I can never narrow him down, but this feels like a course I might be willing to take a chance on KH Lee, especially considering he's at 7% owned. Sepp Straka did not play well his one time he came here to Narashino, but I think this is another opportunity that Sepp Straka could surprise and compete. I'm out on Neesmith. The approach has been great. I think last week fit him. I don't think he is good enough with the par threes. I don't think the putter's going to be good enough, and he does not make it up in the par fours either. He is really bad on the par fours here. Oh shoot, I meant to highlight those two. He's just bad at the length of the par fours here. So I'm out on Neesmith. Herbert, I really want to get in line with Lucas Herbert. I just can't. Not with the lack of greens and regulation. Griot has always been up there in my data models the first few weeks of this season to a decent amount of success, and then he imploded this Saturday and Sunday. but he was right there. Hubbard, always there in my mixed condition model. Putnam, no thanks. Mac Hughes, JJ Spawn is somebody I would be interested in. Absolutely. I'm just out on Ricky again. I talked about Taylor Moore, I kind of like. For as much as Brendan Steele has played this course well, I'm just out on him, because if he's not going to hit the greens, he's in real big trouble, because his par 3 numbers are atrocious. I mean, really, the only thing that he has going for him is the greens in regulation. So I'm out on Brendan Steele. Patrick Rodgers, okay, I can see a little bit of Patrick Rodgers here. Okay, don't hate it, don't love it, don't hate it. Matt Wallace, I like, even though the par 3s are a disaster. He's been playing a lot better. His par 5 performance is good. His par 4s, which is just off the screen here, his par 4s are immaculate. I like Matt Wallace this week. Talked about Alex Smalley. I like Alex Smalley. Just anytime greens are a factor, he hits greens in regulation. So I like Alex Smalley. Troy Merritt's a little bit in the doghouse after last week, but the numbers say he probably shouldn't be good again this week either. Martin Laird, Knox, okay, I guess. Like, nothing really inspires me in the low 7s, in the 8s. Like, the upper 7s, I can find a little bit here. KH Lee is interesting. Sepp Straka, even though he's pretty popular, I kind of like what I see in Sepp Straka. Griot always rates out well. But once you get into the lower 7s, there's not a lot that I like here. Especially, like I said, with guys like Brendan Steele. If he doesn't hit his greens, I mean, literally everything else is a complete dumpster fire. Complete dumpster fire. Kevin Streelman. Now, his par 5s are good from 550 to 600. He's good on the par 4s, but the par 3s and the birdies when it's short, very bad. Luke List, a lot of the same, but his par 4s have been bad. Sorry, my big head's in the way. Luke List, par 3s bad, par 4s. You can see just the outline of red. 66th. It's bad. Patrick Rodgers is somewhat interesting, I guess, because of at the 4.2% ownership. Okay. Because he can also putt it fairly well. Wallace is okay. Smalley okay. But there's not a lot in the 7s that I'm excited about. And then in the 6Ks, I'm going to mention a couple of names here, and then I'm going to do a pretty good in-depth Japanese player look. So in the 6Ks, talked about it, Adam Schenk. He's number 2 in my rankings. I'm going to use some Adam Schenk. He's at 10% according to Fantasy National members, so that's pretty high. The only one higher in the 6Ks is Hayden Buckley. He probably deserves no, or he probably needs no explanation on why people are liking him. He's been playing well. Par 5's good. Greens approach. This might be another Adam Long week. Number 2 in par 3s and the par 3s of 175 to 200. So I really like Adam Long for that. And his greens and his approach have been good. So take a look at Adam Long. It's worth a shot. If Cameron Champ indeed is going to continue to hit greens in regulation when it's difficult, take a look at Cameron Champ. The one tournament he has had on Paspalum, he putt extremely well. It is a 1 tournament sample size. It's very volatile. I don't recommend, putting a whole lot of stock into it. But given the fact that he has hit greens in regulation throughout the calendar year at this clip, and he showed at least a propensity to putt on Paspalum 1 tournament, willing to take a gamble at 6,800, and at a little bit less than 4% owned, I kind of like Cameron Champ if he continues to hit these greens, because everything else is atrocious. Now the par fives he'll devour. That's what Cam Champ does. You know, he does not play the par fours well. He doesn't get birdies on short courses much. Again, this is a dart throw of, okay, Cameron Champ putt well at the Mexico Open on Paspalum. If he continues to hit his greens, perhaps there's something there. There's lightning in a bottle. Lee Hodges, again, greens and strokes gained approach. He's getting a whole lot of attention from the Fantasy National analytics community. No one else really is, but I wanted to throw out Adam Long. I wanted to throw out Cameron Champ. I think the others that I would throw out are going to be Japanese only players, or players that play on the Japan Tour. I guess I should mention Brandon Wu for the same reason I mentioned Cameron Champ. Brandon Wu putt the Mexico Open on Paspalum very well as Champ did, and his par fives and par fours are good. So Brandon Wu is somebody to take a look at as well, who is a little bit cheaper and right at the same ownership as Cameron Champ. But there's a look at the price board. Let me filter out the Japanese players here, and it's going to take me a second. But this gives me a good opportunity to remind you that I would really appreciate if you would consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out tremendously. If you like what you hear, if you like what you see, I enjoy what I do, so consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video, dropping in comments of what you enjoyed seeing, what you think you're going to see this week at the Zozo, all of that good stuff. This should be 14 or so. Is that 14? It is 14. Perfect. All right. These are the 14 Japanese players that are here at the Zozo this week. Two of them I don't have a whole lot of data on because they didn't play much on the Japan tour. One of them is no longer an amateur, but he has been on the golf radar for a long time. It's Keita Nakajima. He is seemingly been around for a long time. He's 20 years old now, I think, but he's been playing in the Masters for 4 or 5 years as an amateur. Very, very good. The numbers aren't all of that promising just because the times he has competed on the PGA Tour haven't been the best. Now, he's made a few cuts even as an amateur, so the guy can really play. So the talent is there, but that's really all I have for you on Nakajima. And then the other player is Kanaya, who plays somewhat regularly on the PGA Tour, so he doesn't have a lot of Japan Tour statistics. So we can be pretty confident in Takumi Kanaya and where he is, at least in my rankings, and how I feel about ownership and all of that. Now, the good thing with Kanaya is that he has played this event at Narashino. He's played it fairly well. So he does have that going for him, but there's not a lot else on him. So I am going to remove those two and talk about the players that are just on the Japan Tour. I wanted to show them because they are here. I just don't have a lot of info for them. So I've got this little sheet of paper here that I went and investigated some Japan Tour statistics earlier today. So for these 12 players, I gathered 4 different metrics, I suppose. I grabbed greens in regulation, because I think that's going to be the most important factor this week. So how good they are at hitting greens. I gathered par or better. They also had birdie or better. I grabbed par or better because I think it's going to be difficult. So I think pars are going to be a valuable score. Last week at the Shriners, par was not a good score. You had to keep birdieing. I think par is a valuable score this week. That's why I'm going to look at par or better. I grabbed putting statistics, and I grabbed par 3. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of how I can do this best without confusing you. Because some of these guys, you can see, do have some data on the PGA Tour. I think I'm just going to have to do this, and I'll just have to type it out. So, in terms of on the Japan Tour specifically, since the start of their 2022 season, which I think starts in January. I could be wrong, but I believe that's how the Japan Tour's schedule works. In greens and regulation, their number one player in greens has been Katsu. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna try. Yuto Katsuragawa. Sure. He's been number one in greens. Then it's been Ryo Hasatsune. He's been number 2 in greens. 6th has been Kawamoto. There he is. He is 6th. 7th is Higa. And Higa is important to note. He is the leading money. He's the money leader on the Japan Tour as of right now. So he's the number one player on the Japan Tour at this moment is Higa. He is 7th. Iwasaki is 8th in greens. 10th is Atsuki. I'll do this to help. Well, yeah, I'll try to figure it out here in a second, but I'm trying to organize this for you. 10th, and then 12th is Imahara. 13th is Onishi. 18 Horikawa. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I think, right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Haha. Horikawa, then Hoshino. And then you drop all the way to 50th on Iwata. Put him way down here. And then 79th is Kataoka. There we go. So, again, I'll do the best I can with this. I need to change this not from a percent. So this is just a number. All right, so in greens, it goes, gosh dang it, 2nd, then 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 13th, 18th, 19th, 50th, and 79th. So that's how they rate in terms of greens in regulation, or hitting greens in regulation on the Japan Tour. These 12 players. Now, in approach, Higa is 2nd, and he's the leader of these 12. 3rd is Katsuragawa. I'm going to butcher these. You can have fun at my expense. 7th, Hoshino. 8th, Imahara. Now, I wanted to go through this one by one with you all. That way you can get a feel for what metrics you value this week and some of the Japanese players that you might want to target. 7, 8, and then 10th is the Kawamoto. 10, 12, Otsuki. 13 is Hitsatsune. 13. We've got a 17 in Horikawa. A 24 Onishi. Put him like there. 40 and 41. So 40 is Iwasaki. There. And finally 41 Kataoka. Yeah. That should be 12. That's 11. Damn it. Forgot somebody. 17 and 18. 18. That's Iwata. Haha. So there's a look at their rankings in terms of stroke gained approach. Par 3. This one's a little different because Onishi didn't have any par 3 statistics for whatever reason. But he dominated par 4s and par 5s. So my guess is he's probably a little bit less in terms of par 3s. But he does dominate par 4s and par 5s, this Onishi. But 4th was Hoshino. 4th. 5th, Imahara. 6th, Iwata. 9th, Katsuragawa. Katsuragawa. Yep, that name, that person. Oh, there's a second. I almost forgot. Otsuki is second. Then 9th, you got 12th, Horikawa. 12. Then 27 is Iwasaki. Put you there. 27. Also tied for 27th is Higa. 33rd, Kawamoto. 43rd, Hisatsune. Oh, that's not him. That's him. 43rd. And then way down there is Kataoka. Way down there. He does not like par 3s at all. And again, I've forgotten somebody. Son of a bitch. Who is it? Who did I forget? I have a 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12, 27, 27, 33. Oh, there is only 11 because I mentioned Onishi. Stupid shit. So there's a look at where they kind of rank in the par 3s. And then lastly, the putting. I don't want to put up here because it's going to get confusing. But what you need to know, the best putter is Onishi, the guy that didn't have any par 3 metrics. So he's a good putter. But you can see where he has been lining up here. We don't know where he is in the par 3 spectrum, but he's number 1 in putting as well. So Kaito Onishi is somebody that I have been keying in on in terms of a Japanese player. You have a couple of very good putters here in Hoshino, who has also been pretty darn high in a lot of these metrics. He's also 7th in putting, Hoshino. Imahara is also 7th in putting. He's been just as solid in terms of his placements in these different metrics and statistics. Blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow. And he is 7th as well in putting. I might do it over here. So, yeah. So Onishi. Onishi 1st in putting. Then it is Hoshino and Imahara that are 7th in putting. They're tied for 7th. So those are a couple of players that I've been keying in on in terms of Japanese players. Just the well-rounded game that they seem to have. You know, these two are very good at the par threes. Even though we don't have Onishi's par 3 metrics, you know, his approaches have been in the, you know, in the top 25 or so. He's 13th in greens. He's number 1 in putting. Seems like he would be a good fit here. For as much as Higa is the number 1 player right now on the Japan Tour, he is number 7 in greens, number 2 in irons. He's 39th in putting, and he's 27th in par 3s. I just don't like that combination. So those 3 I've been really focused on. And then the last one for me has been Yuto. I will highlight him in orange. Why not? So you look at Yuto. In the 2 things that I think are going to be very, very strong or very important this week, greens and regulation. He's number 1 in greens and regulation on the Japan Tour. He's number 3 in strokes gained approach on the Japan Tour. He's also 9th in par 3 performance on the Japan Tour. So he's got 3 top 10 stats. The issue has been his putting. He is 49th in putting. But this is the player I was talking about with the Tom Hoge profile. He can catch fire. He can catch fire and have a good week. If he continues to hit greens, if he continues to ball strike it like he has, play his par 3s as well as he has, you're giving me Yuto Katsuragawa at 6,300 at 4%. And he's played on the PGA Tour and played well. He played in the Open Championship this past year at the Old Course, and he made the cut. He played okay. I think he was tie 40-something. He's fine. So at 6,340 and 4% versus you have Tom Hoge, who is 8,600 and 15.3%. Similar looking profiles to me. Give me the guy that is cheaper and a lot less owned in Yuto Katsuragawa. That's how it's going to be. I'm not going to try to butcher it 80 times. So those are the 4 Japanese players that I've been constructing rosters with and around. So I'll keep this here if you want to see it. And you can pause the video afterwards and whatnot. But let's go ahead and move on into tiers and start making some lineups and such as we are getting close on time already. So, remove the filters here. All right, so for those who play tiers contests, Tier 1, you have Xander, Hideki, and Colin Morikawa. I'm probably going to take Xander. I think he's the safer play. But I think Xander or Hideki are just fine. I don't think Colin Morikawa is the pick. So Xander, Hideki in Tier 1. Tier 2, Sung Jae, Tom Kim, Victor Hovland, Cameron Young, and Tyrrell Hatton. This is where I'm going to be unique. I'm going to take Tyrrell Hatton. I think the best pick is obviously Sung Jae. He's going to be very chalky. Tom Kim's going to be very chalky. Give me Tyrrell Hatton. I think he'll be serviceable, and he's going to be very unique in Tier 2. Tier 3, Tommy Fleetwood, Corey Connors, Keegan Bradley, Siwoo Kim, and Tom Hoagie. For me, it's between Connors and Tommy Fleetwood. I will take Connors. I think Fleetwood is fine as well. Yeah, I think it's just those two in Tier 3. Keegan's okay. Siwoo's probably going to be chalky. But give me Connors or Fleetwood. Tier 4, Tagala, Cam Davis, Matt McNeely, Mito Pereira, Scott Stallings, Sebastian Munoz, and Davis Riley. There's not a lot I like in Tier 4. I've mentioned for the reasons why I'm off Cam Davis. I mean, it might just be Mito Pereira by default. Sadly. He's very chalky, but I think it's Mito Pereira by default in Tier 4. Tier 5, Bezadenhout, KH Lee, Sepp Straka, Matthew Neesmith, Lucas Herbert, Milan Ogrio, and Mark Hubbard. Bezadenhout is very interesting for speculation. I don't mind KH Lee at all. Grillo always rates out well, but he's probably going to be pretty darn popular. Grillo's probably the best choice. Something's just calling to me about Christian Bezadenhout. So give me Christian Bezadenhout in Tier 5. And then finally, Tier 6, we have Ricky Fowler, Luke List, Wyndham Clark, Adam Svensson, Alex Smalley, Russell Knox, and Adam Schenk. I'm going to take Adam Schenk just because of the metrics. I mean, number 2 in my mixed condition model, number 3 in the analytics. Although, I do think Alex Smalley will be useful as well for the greens. But give me Adam Schenk in Tier 6. Okay, let's make some lineups here for our classic contests. If we're going to try to build these chalky lineups that our fellow contestants are going, well, we're going to start with the most popular play in Sung Jae. And your fellow contestants have been bottoming out. It looks like Lee Hodges at 6,700. Hayden Buckley. Let's do Hayden Buckley just because he's at 13.5%. So that's their boundary that your fellow contestants are going. They have a lot of different options here in the direction they want to go. I mean, they could go Stars and Scrubs and do like another low 7K play here. Let's see. Let's do Stefan Jaeger. He's at 11%. And the next lowest owned is say, Emiliano Grillo. Well, if I could spell. At 13%. They still have 9,200 per. Like, this is maybe a Joo Hyung Kim or Tom Kim. And at 87 is Tagala. He's not getting much love, but Tom Hoagie is. Like, there's a look at a possible lineup that's at 16%. Matching lineups in a big GPP. If they wanted to go a bit more, I guess, balanced, because I went M and Tom Kim. Maybe if they did something to the effect of Sung Jae, Corey Connors, maybe a Cam Davis, and a Mito. What does that put them? 7,400. Not a lot getting used there. It's Taylor Moore, that's 8%. Ricky Fowler, Brendan Steele. If they come off Mito, yeah, Sebastian Munoz is getting some love. Sebastian Munoz. Then they come up to 76, which is Andrew Putnam. So there's another lineup that is 16% that's a bit more balanced, per se. They drop down off of Tom Kim to Corey Connors, and then go work their way down Cam Davis, Munoz, Putnam that way. Another direction that your fellow contestants could be going, if they're going to do stars and scrubs, let's go say Xander and Tom Kim. I'm going to have to go down a little bit further for them. Sam Ryder is getting some love at 6,600, but I'm going to use Lee Hodges at 67 since he's a lot more projected owned. So I'm going to go Lee Hodges. I'm going to try not to use the same names. Like Yeager again would be here. Buckley would probably be here. I'm going to go with a Matt Wallace at 7,200. Gives them 78. They can run into like a Matthew Neesmith, Emiliano Grillo type duo there. 14.5%. If they're willing to come off of Tom Kim, maybe go to a Cameron Young. Gives them a bit more wiggle room. They can go maybe Cam Young. We can try a Mito Pereira. Again, going to try not to use the same names, but it really kind of is the same names. Like if they go Lee Hodges and Hayden Buckley, this is 81 for Sebastian Munoz, who's getting a whole lot of love. Like there's a stars and scrubs-ish type look at 16.1%. Going Xander, Cam Young, Mito, Munoz, and then dropping into the 6Ks for 2. But if we're going to try to combat this, your first decision is, am I going to use the 10Ks? If I am, who? I think Sung Jae is probably the best play, so if we're going to try to use Sung Jae, even though he is the most popular, estimated at a quarter of your fellow contestants using, it's probably going to be more like 30 to 35%, since this isn't a full field event. But going Sung Jae, if I'm going Sung Jae, then I'm trying to really maximize the uniqueness brand here of going to a Terrell Hatton and I like Christian Bezadenhout, but you don't have to use him here. Depends on what kind of lineup that you're wanting to throw out there. I'm going to throw in a Bezadenhout that keeps me somewhat balanced. And I don't have to come into the 6Ks, although I am going to use Adam Schenk for illustrative purposes, shall we say. But I still have 8,000 per here, and I can come up off of Schenk if I want to. Maybe you like a Matt Wallace. I've mentioned Patrick Rogers that could be somewhat interesting at 73. Taylor Moore. I like JJ Spawn quite a bit this week. Well, so JJ Spawn, that leaves me 85, which is Cam Davis if you like Cameron Davis this week. I don't, but you have the ability to take another chalky play with all of the uniqueness that you've been grabbing here. It was 8,000 Christian was 82. So there's an 11.5% balanced lineup that you still have Sung Jae and Cam Davis, even though I'm not on Cam Davis, that you could build. If you're not sold on Bezadenhout, maybe you go something to the effect of a Sung Jae. You're going to have to try to find some uniqueness somewhere. So if it's not Terrell Hatton, maybe you can afford a Tommy Fleetwood, but then you're going to have to get really unique elsewhere. Maybe a KH Lee. Mark Hubbard's only at 9% or 9.5%. Taylor Moore's at 8%. Like, a lot of your fellow contestants are seemingly building these stars and scrubs lineups as well. And that's why I wanted to do a pretty good portion on the Japanese players. That way it gives you an idea of who to target that hopefully some of your other contestants won't know about. Let's see, M, Fleetwood, KH Lee. Let's go ahead and throw in one of these Japan Tour players that I was talking about. Let's do Onishi. He's at 61. Or at 6,000. So there you go. That really opens it up. Like, you can go, shoot, you might be able to go Xander Sungjae at that point. And then come down to a Tommy, maybe. Might be a little bit aggressive. 7,000 per. Probably a little too aggressive. Scott Stallings, Sebastian Munoz. Maybe you like Davis Riley. Not quite there, but I can see it, I suppose. And then KH Lee. And a 73, Patrick Rodgers, who I've been mentioning. You got Wyndham Clark down there. Adams Vinson's down there. That's an 11% projected owned, with two huge projected owned players in Xander and Sungjae. So you can find some uniqueness. You're gonna have to be willing to take your shots, like I was last week. Just kind of backfired with Troy Merritt. But Robbie Shelton was a dart throw. He paid off big time in the lineups that I used him. But the best lineup that I've been working around. I'm gonna butcher this 10 ways from Sunday. Yuto Kat. What is it? Kat Suragawa. Ha! Yeah. So I've been going Yuto, and then coming up to Adam Schenk, and then really hammering the stars and scrubs out of it. Bezadenhout is 4th. I mean, you can see I'm averaging 9,600 per on these. I've been going something like Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood also works. Like here you can go like Sungjae, Tom Kim. That's at 13.3. It's a little chalky for my liking, but just doing the illustrative purposes of it. Maybe we can go Xander, come off of Bezadenhout down to JJ Spawn, Andrew Putnam, maybe Sepp Straka, although he's very chalky. It's Terrell Hatton is the guy that I've been going around here. So Hatton and then Keegan. There's an 11%er. Again, not great, but 11% is not as high as it would seem because this is not a full field event. So there's a look at some ways you can go around trying to build some uniqueness into your lineups. Hopefully throwing out the 4 names that I have for you from the Japan Tour. And again, this is not my ranking. This is their putting. So let me bring this over here for you. This is their putting rank and then their highlight color. So Onishi is 1st in putting, 13th in greens, 27th or whatever in approach, so on and so forth. But I really like Onishi. I'm using Yuto Katsuragawa quite a few times, I think. I like Yuto. These two, I know they have played some events on the PGA Tour, Hoshino and Imahara. So, they've been playing well on the Japan Tour this year. But really, if I had to pick two, I would use these two, Onishi and Katsuragawa. For the greens, the approach, the par threes, which I think are going to be very, very important. And yes, Yuto does not have good putting numbers. All it takes is one putting week. That's why I don't depend on putting week in and week out. It's a fickle statistic. You're banking on him having a good putting week. But you're doing that with a lot of people. Tom Hoge is not a good putter. You're banking on Tom Hoge having a good putting week. So, as I mentioned when I was going through the Japanese players, give me the guy with the same profile as Tom Hoge at $2,500 less dollars and 11% less owned. So, I'll take Yuto. I do like Kaito Onishi as well for the greens and the putting. So, take a look at that as well. Those two are the main two Japanese players that I'm going to recommend you consider. There's nothing wrong with these two either. I think they're going to be a little bit more common, or they're going to be more highly owned because they've played some on the PGA Tour. Imahara's at 1.3%, Hoshino 2.1%. Katsuragawa is at 4. Onishi is 0.6. So, but there you go. There is a look at the Zozo price board and lineup constructions and how I am seeing DFS contests going this week. Put it in the comments. What Japanese players, if any, do you use this week? Of course, if you have a big win, please find me on social media, in the comments of the video. I would love to be able to shout you out at the beginning of a week to let the community know that you had a big hit. Nothing makes my weekend more than hearing part of the community hits. Really does. Tomorrow I will try to be online for Twitch, but even if I'm not, if you have any questions, reach out on social media or on Discord. I will absolutely be able to answer any questions that you have leading up to the deadline of roster turn-ins, the roster deadlines. It's at 7:50 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I'm just going to tell you 7:30. That way you gives yourself a little bit of chance of wiggle room. But I'm going to be available. If you need help, reach out. But P, thanks for jumping in chat like you always do whenever you're able to catch the show live. Good luck with your contests and your wagers. Hopefully your week has went well. Thanks to everyone else out there who watches and listens, supports the channel, comments on the videos, has subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate all of the support that you all have given me. I enjoy what I do, and I hope I provide you some angles to think about when you are using, or some analysis to think about when you are betting and filling out your DFS lineups and whatnot. So for all of the wagers that you have made this week for the Zozo, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Zozo, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.